So I think it's about time we slowly start. Hopefully we have some people join us whilst I'm just doing a little bit of housekeeping. Um, so hello everyone. I'm Danny Benderfield. I'm a community communications manager with Wikidata for Wikimedia projects team. And I'll be sort of hosting and moderating this Wikidata and sister projects online event, including this opening session. Um, So it's, oh, before I forget, I'll just make sure the technical support team, if you could please make sure the recording's on. Thank you. So, um, just a little bit of housekeeping. We're going to have 3 sessions today, and then towards the end we'll have a few games. And I'll start the opening session by just getting to it. So. Let's see if that's still the same one. But if I put this here, there we go. So, yes, let's start with the opening session then. And following that, we'll hear from Ifatu and Nesli Han, who'll give a session on the state of Wikidata integrations into the Wikimedia projects. And then a little bit later on, we'll hear from Luca and David about Wikifunctions and how Wikidata is helping to power language functions. So I'm also joined by a few of my colleagues who will either be speaking or they'll be helping to facilitate. So I'll just introduce the event itself, how people can attend, and have a little quick look over the program for the rest of the weekend. For those of you in the Jitsi room, perhaps you would like to say hello. Maybe you'd like to mention where you're joining us from. And you could also mention if you've been to a Wikidata Days event before, whether that's online or on-site. And if there's anything you're really interested in from the Wikidata and Sister Projects event, please let us know. So we have with us Ifatu Niobi. Ifatu, if you would like to say hello, feel free. If not, I will just speak over. That's really up to you. We'll hear plenty from you, I'm sure, in a few minutes. Ifatu is our product manager for Wikidata for Wikimedia projects. And they are also joined by Neslihan Turan, who's a software engineer with our team. And helping to facilitate today is also Cynthia, our engineering manager, and Jolie, also a software engineer. Throughout the weekend, you'll also hear from or see Sean and also Susie, also fellow software engineers from our team. So about myself, as I mentioned before, I'm a community communications manager from a new software development team that's called Wikidata for Wikimedia projects. You may have previously seen me during the Leveling Up Days online event in 2024. I was most recently at the Katowice Wikimania, and you can catch me during the Wikidata and Wikibase office hours with the rest of the Wikidata team. Then, quick introduction on how to attend. This event sort of came about because of also the reason why our team exists. I think there was an opportunity or there was a gap for there to be a team that was dedicated to Wikidata's integration and use in the Wikimedia projects family. And that is what our team has been formed around. That is what we're looking to do, to exploit. And we wanted to make this event to showcase or highlight the different uses and ways that Wikidata can help support or power functions or support editors in their workflows across the Wikimedia family of projects. Um, as you're probably no doubt aware from the social media spam and the mails, that this event will run over 4 days for approximately 2 to 4 hours per day. We wanted to stagger the starting times so people from different time zones could be present. And we didn't want to have the sessions run on too long that people would suffer from fatigue. The sessions are live and they're being simultaneously recorded. They're also being live streamed to YouTube for replays later. So if you miss any sessions or you would like to catch up later, there'll be different ways you can get access to them. And this event is open to all Wikimedians, but just by virtue of the event type, of course, some Wikidata knowledge would be handy, but not necessary. So, how to join? For those of you here with us in the Jitsi room, please remember that this is being recorded. So, as are most of the sessions. So, we please ask you to keep your microphone and camera muted unless you're an active speaker or asking a question. It should be the default when you're entering Jitsi, but just remember later on if you want to ask a question, not only that you will have to unmute your microphone, but that your your question will be recorded. Your audio and your camera, if you unmute it, will be recorded. But the Jitsi chat log is not being logged, however. For those of you who are joining us from YouTube, if you wish to join via Jitsi, it's totally free. There's no account required. You can go to the event project page at Wikidata:event, Wikidata and sister projects, and there'll be a registration button. And once you're registered, you will have access to the Jitsi link just by going into the Manage Event settings. That link is static, so it's going to remain the same throughout the event, so feel free to bookmark it. And those of you joining via Jitsi, this will allow you to chat with other attendees. It's an interactive room. You'll be able to react to the sessions if you find the content interesting, and you can show your support or interest. And you can also make use of the raise your hand button. You'll find it next to the chat button and next to the participants button. There'll be, if you want to get access to the reactions, there's a little upward facing chevron above the hand. Yes, for those joining on YouTube, although you will miss out on those interactions, YouTube can be a pretty handy alternative if your connection doesn't allow Jitsi or you just prefer not to be on the recordings. Links to YouTube are on the event program. We plan on having 4 daily recordings, so there will be 4 links in total to begin with during the course of the event, and then later on we're going to snip those recordings into individual sessions. So just as mentioned, we will have replays of the sessions available on YouTube and eventually on Commons. So, of course, all of our sessions are covered by the Technical Code of Conduct, and I invite you to have a look. We're very keen on having a pleasant and supportive atmosphere for everyone. And should you have any questions, you can try on the chat, but with everything that's going on, I might not see it. So you can also get me on Telegram at Benny_Dangerfield, or you can email me at danny.bengerfield@wikimedia.de. And you can also find me on Wiki at user:\Danny Bengerfield (WMDE). And here's some useful links for you. The main event page, Wikidata and sister projects, and then a link to the program, the sign up if you somehow haven't managed to sign up yet, and also the Commons category where we will eventually store the session slides and the video recordings, and there's also the visuals. So Jitsi, just a short guide for those of you unaware. Yes, we ask that you please mute your microphone and camera.
um, just to keep the amount of distractions for the current speaker to the minimum. But during the question and answer phases, feel free to raise your hand. Um, there will be a queue available so we can see who is who has raised their hand first and who is the first to speak. And then when prompted, you can unmute and ask your question. You can also feel free to ask questions in the chat, but there's no guarantee that the speaker will be able to respond to them whilst they are busy with their session. Or maybe one of the facilitators is able to answer the question. But if it's a question about the session content, then that's limited. Maybe try asking questions related to how to unmute your microphone, or if you can't hear something in the chat. Yes, raising your hand and the reactions, they share the same button. So if you click the upward facing chevron, you'll get access to the reactions like sending a heart or a thumbs up or a laughing. There are usually sounds from reactions, but I've disabled them for everyone. But if you are hearing sounds from reactions, please let us know in the chat so we can just check that. Or it could be that when we start the room up again tomorrow, we forget to mute them for everyone again. And yeah, just be aware that maybe you want to click to raise your hand and you accidentally click the chevron and send a thumbs up. Bugs can happen, especially if we're many people. We really hope nothing too many technical gremlins come. With many people, because this is freeware, there can be lapses in performance. So in the top right of your Jitsi page, you can find what looks like a speedometer. And if you click this, it will be your performance settings. And I tend to find it's best not to have it on the lower setting, but the next lower setting, sort of like optimized performance. And when in doubt, you can do the classic, not turning it off and turning it on again. Please don't turn off your laptop or your desktop. But you can try refreshing the page, try switching the browser, which worked for me when I was having the audio issues. And there is also a Jitsi mobile app available, but I am not currently using it. I'm using the browser version. And to join the session, to join the discussions later on, there's a link to the event talk page. I can see some of you are in the Etherpad making some collaborative notes. Thank you very much. There is the link to the Wikidata Telegram group is to the main Wikidata group, not specific to this event. But if you would like to post in there the event is happening, or to say how wonderful it was, or just to ask any questions you have about Wikidata, you can use this link. And just a reminder that any questions asked in the Jitsi chat will not be recorded. So if you ask a question there, it would be handy to transcribe that to the Etherpad. Documentation. Yes, if I'm doing a lot of duplicate speaking, my apologies, but it's good to get everything recorded. Documentation. The sessions will be recorded. The videos will be made available to YouTube within about a day of the session. And on Wikimedia Commons, it might take us a little while longer just as we get the editing done. We ask if speakers could also share their slides to Wikimedia Commons. If you have any questions about that, please get in touch with me. And yeah, we think it's really important to share the sessions amongst your peers in the community so that everyone has access to it and can check the interesting content. But everything will be available later, so it can be rewatched to your heart's content. And eventually, when everything is available on Commons, it will be wonderful to get help translating the captions into English and any other languages. That would be really wonderful. So let's have a quick look at the program. This is day one, and we're currently in the opening session. And just after this, we're going to hear from Ifatu and Neslihan on the state of Wikidata integrations in the Wikimedia projects. Following on from that, we'll hear about an exciting new project called Wikifunctions and how it's powering language functions through Wikidata. And a nice light and breezy day. After that, we'll have some games, maybe some Wikidata Guesser or some Wiki Trivia, or everything is connected. And that will wrap up day one. Moving on to day two, starting at the same time as today, 4 p.m. UTC. If you're joining us from Europe, for me, it will be 6 p.m. We'll have a session on the best practices for reusing Wikidata's data in the Wikimedia projects. Then following, we'll hear about Wikidata-powered info boxes, especially how they're helping support indigenous language Wikipedias. Then we're going to have a quick talk, I think it's only 10 to 15 minutes, on connecting Wikivoyage with Wikidata. And then later, there'll be a Wikidata clinic where anyone is welcome to come and ask us questions. I believe Lydia Pincher, portfolio manager for Wikidata, will be joining us for that. On day three, we're starting a lot earlier, and this is, as I mentioned, so we can cover different time zones. We felt it was really important to get access to give access and coverage to other parts of the globe, and not to be too Eurocentric. So we'll start the day with using the Beaming Up tool to fuse Wikidata info into FactGrid. Then after this, we'll hear about Wikisource and how Wikidata play together. And this will be 2 sessions wrapped into one. So there'll be a 30-minute presentation slot and then a 50-minute workshop. Then a little bit later on, I haven't updated this. We were going to hear from Diffusi about German Wikivoyage, how it's perfect for Wikidata implementation. But unfortunately, their abrupt scheduling changes couldn't allow them to join. So we will unfortunately use a pre-recorded segment from a previous Wikidata Days event that will also be focused on Wikivoyage, but unfortunately won't be the session we'd hoped for. Maybe we can have that one in the future. And then we will also have some games to round out the day. And then on the 1st of June, our longest day, it'll be an early start again at 9 a.m. UTC or 11 a.m. CEST. And we'll start with listful thinking, using Wikidata to support editing workflows. Then we'll have an hour of bug triage. Following this, we'll see Wiktionary and how lexicographical data is helping power it. And then we'll have a glimpse into how Quick Statements 3.0, I assume, is helping to Wikidata-fy lists. And then after this, we'll have some Wikidata Live editing with Jan Einali and Albin Larsen. And this will be checking how adding maps to Wikipedia can be done with geospatial data. And then it will be our closing session, and that will be wrapping up the first Wikidata and Sister Projects days. Now, we did have a question previously about the Wikidata Live editing because we've listed it as not being recorded. I didn't anticipate recording for many of the sort of the social or the games sessions, but I can check with Einali and Abba98 if it's okay to have the recorded session, because I think it would be wonderful to have some live editing recorded that people can refer to. So that wraps up this opening session. And Lydia mentions that they'll always automatically record on YouTube. Okay. Yeah, I think the anticipation was that we were going to stop the live stream and stop the recording for the games and for the live edit. So I'll check with them, and then we can see if that will be done. If there's any other questions, please feel free to write them. We don't plan on starting the next session till 30 minutes past the hour. So now's a moment to stretch your legs, or to take a bio break, or to feed your cat. Yeah, and thank you all for being here. It's really, really wonderful. Thank you, Afatu. So maybe for those of you who are joining in the Jitsi room, you might like to write in the chat wherever you're joined from, or perhaps which projects you're active in, maybe which is your main project, or why you're interested in joining today. Is that an Andrew Russell Green I spot in the chat?
Hey, thank you. Yeah, how's it going? Good to see
Hel-
you.
Hello, it's lovely to see you joining us.
Yeah, thanks. Great to see you.
And I've just heard word that the reaction sounds are back on, so I'm just going to check if I can mute those. Are they? I don't hear any clapping. I think maybe that's just notification pings about someone unmuting their microphone. Ah, we can hear them in the live stream. Oh, really? Yeah, I think they are quite cute. Maybe the first time you hear each individual one, but by about the 50th time, might get a little bit annoying. But I think it's really important just that you don't, especially for the speaker, that they don't hear them, because I can imagine it'd be very distracting. But one of our facilitators, Cynthia, has just disabled them. So let's just do a quick test and see if people are still hearing them. No sound. I hope that means no sound is in no reaction sound and that you can still hear me. Excellent. Looks like they've been turned off. Great. Thank you, Caroline. So we've just got a few more minutes before we start the next session. I wonder if, for those of you in the audience, have any of you encountered myself or Afatu or Neslihan before? I know that Neslihan is has been active in the Wikimedia community for a while, and you might have encountered them at the most recent hackathon in Istanbul, but also previous hackathons.
Hi, everyone. It's nice to see everyone.
So quiet.
An unpopular opinion, I kind of like the emoji sounds. It feels supported for the speaker to me.
When I look at all of my active tabs, do you also see them? Is it also sharing them?
No, it's not.
No, that's like this, no?
We don't even see that. We just see the slides.
Oh, good. All right. And how was my pacing during the opening session? Was I talking too quickly? Since we have so many minutes before the next session, it makes me feel like I was rushing through my content. No notes? Excellent. I've been I've been to a few of the previous Wikidata days events, like leveling up days, and occasionally for data modeling and data reuse days. But what I cannot remember is in these moments between sessions, if we have music. Is that something we've done before, like elevator music? Maybe that could be something we look into for the future to make it less sterile sounding when there's just empty silence.
Could it be a time for unconference Wikidata stand-ups? If someone is brave enough, they can tell funny stories related to Wikidata. I think there are many.
Sounds like maybe you have such a story to share.
Okay, I will be thinking maybe for next in between sessions I can bring some. Currently I don't. I mean, I can tell you how I banned from Commons when I
What?
started.
You banned?
Yeah, okay. It's a funny story. It wasn't funny when it was happening. So I wasn't very knowledgeable about how to edit Commons at that time, and I was trying to volunteering on the Commons app, and I uploaded the same pigeon picture, but many times. And they warned me many times. I didn't hear about it because I think there was a technical reason that I didn't hear about it. Maybe it could be about Turkey Wikipedia ban. I am not sure. But then one day I recognized all of these notifications. After I recognized I am banned, I was investigating why I am banned. Then I find out they already warned me many times and I didn't do anything about it. Then I apologized properly and they unbanned me later. So what can I say? I was very young.
How many pigeon pictures?
Like around 10, but it's very similar, like almost same. Some of them are actually same. I was testing on the real service. So yeah. Then I recognized, oh, there is beta service to test. Yeah, if you count this story as one.
So we just have a couple minutes to go before the next session. And I think if Fatu and Neslihan, if you could, if you want to grab the screen share and just do an audio test, although it sounds like your audio is working just fine. I just see a loading screen at the moment. Oh, there we go. Ah, I take it it's just a loading screen when you go to slideshow mode. Does anyone else in the audience see just like a loading screen, or do you see the slide deck?
I see the word loading.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
No, now I see the deck.
There it is. But I assume. Oh, Ifatu, maybe try using the slideshow rather than the share button. I think that will work. Oh no, that's the loading screen. Okay. You could try in presenter mode. If you go to the drop down and presenter view, then we will end up. Yeah, if you drag that box off to your second screen, and then you can use that to switch between your slides. Just please be aware that we have your address bar and what tabs you have open at the top of the page. And so far looks good. Our technical support team say that they see the loading screen when you had it before. So I'm not sure if you were sharing the whole screen or if you were just sharing an individual tab, but sharing the whole screen is preferred. So we see the size as they were before with your address bar. Since time's running, to me this seems fine. But you're on mute as well, just so you know.
Okay, so we're good to go. All right. I will start because I can't see you all. If there's something going on for any reason you can't hear me or you can't see, please, I would really appreciate if someone could say something and then I'll know. Thanks so much, everyone, for being here. My name is Ifatu. I'm going to be sharing this presentation with Neslihan. We're part of the Wikidata for Wikimedia projects team, and we're focused on supporting Wikidata integrations in all the Wikimedia projects. In this session, I'm going to be talking about our projects. I'm going to be sharing a bit about our early discoveries. I'll talk about how we want to grow sustainably, also touch on urgent concerns that community members have brought to our attention. And we'll show a little bit of our work, and then we'll open up for questions, discussions, and comments. So, yeah, thanks again, everyone, for being here. All right. So I'll give you a little bit of background about our project. Of course, so many of you have been members of the Wikidata community for a long time. I can imagine that a lot of you also work on other Wikimedia projects. But what was lacking was that there wasn't a team, a group of people who were dedicated to making sure that the way Wikidata is being used in all the other projects can be maximized. And then all the problems or concerns that community members are bringing up can also be taken care of other people. So as Danny mentioned in the intro, we're a team at Wikimedia Deutschland in Berlin who want to support editors who want to use Wikidata's data and other projects. And we want to improve their workflows. We're also very, very interested in making this a collaborative experience. So we love hearing back from community members Danny's always reaching out to different projects and asking people whether we can talk to them or how we can learn from their experience. So always please feel free to reach out to us about any Wikidata integration stuff. So this is us. We're very cool, very happy. Um, but what's important here is that we do share a lot of information on our meta page. So please check that out. You can probably see a link to it in the events guidelines. The other thing that we would like to share is our Fabricator workboard. So you can find that if you search Wikidata integration in Wikimedia. So if there's a bug or a problem that you think you want to share with us, this is a really good place to put it. Our engineers check that very often. Also, if you're a technical contributor and you've made a change and you would like someone to review it, we also do that. We love to be in touch with the community, so please talk to us. So I'm going to start by sharing some of the early discoveries. So when we came into this project, we were basically quite new to the community, apart from Neslihan and Sean, another of our engineers. But the rest of us were trying to figure out like where things fit together. How do we piece the different parts of the data being used in different projects? What are the different workflows? Which ones are, what kind of frameworks can we have around them? We experimented with different kinds of frameworks. We also had to scope our work area, right? Because when you hear Wikidata integrations team, the name is so mouthy and worthy that you start wondering like, okay, what are these guys integrating? What do they do? So one thing that was important for us was that we wanted to do a lot of foundational research. We wanted to talk to so many community members, and we also wanted to be able to scope our work area so that we could be focused and be able to look at places that could maximize impact and even also make sure that we're also measuring whatever impact that we're having, right? So we had two main research goals, and we broke our research down into two phases. The first phase was that we wanted to document the space, but we also wanted to make sure that whatever we were understanding was shared with the community. Because if we're working for the community, it makes no sense for us to have one understanding of something, but the community does not have this understanding. In the second phase, we wanted to learn more about editor motivations. We wanted to learn more about existing workflows, and we wanted to learn more about the problems that editors encountered when they were trying to use Wikidata as data. And in this second phase, something that was super important for us was to even look at where in the Wikimedia projects are the different types of data being used. So if you check out our tag on Commons, you'll see the research that was published by Andrew Russell Green, who is in the room today. And it talks about statement signals, that's what they're called. So looking at how we can even measure these, because one key thing that we found was that we still need to work on the infrastructure to be able to measure these very well. So one thing that our early discoveries taught us was that there is so much potential. There is also so much to do. So I'm going to quickly share a little bit of how Wikidata is used in other Wikimedia projects. And this is primarily for those who might be a bit newer to the space, so that we're all sort of on the same page, right? So one key thing that Wikidata does is that it links pages. So when we're talking about linking pages, we're talking about site links. I learned that actually site links is a terminology that might not be familiar to people who are not core Wikidata users. But what this essentially allows us to do is that you can change language. So for example, if we're on the Wikipedia article page for Berlin, you're able to see this in multiple languages that article exists in. You can also learn more information about Berlin, say via through Commons, because now you want to see pictures of all the pigeons that are in Berlin that maybe Neslihan has also uploaded to Commons. Another thing that it does is that it can embed statements. So a way that you can do embedding of statements, and these are like, the particular bits of information on the items on Wikidata. You can use templates or modules, and you can put them, so these can make their way into the article body on your other project that you're working on. Wikidata is also used in other projects like Wikifunctions, and we're going to hear about that from Luca in the next talk. It's also used to put in geographical information. It's used in authority control. So you want to know where this information that you're reading is coming from. And then, of course, you can see the image of the info box on the right corner of the screen. When you have the little pencil there, it tells you that this information is coming from Wikidata. And if you'd like to make an addition to this information there, you would need to go to Wikidata to do this. You can also use Wikidata to include information on coordinates or references. And super importantly, we want to use Wikidata to track information, right? So once you get information from Wikidata into your other project, we can always keep an eye on this when it updates in one place. And once you've updated it in Wikidata, you don't need to continuously go to all your 300 language pages to update this. We can use the example of, like popular people who passed recently, such as Gene Hackman. Once that information would have been updated on Wikidata, if, say, his date of death was being used anywhere in any other project, you wouldn't have to manually go and change this. It would have just had to be updated once. And finally, we can also use Wikidata's information on our watch lists. So watch list is a place sort of like where you favorite articles that you're super interested in, you're invested in, you want to make sure people are not vandalizing them, or you also want to know if someone adds very interesting information. So you have your watch list there. And when someone changes something on Wikidata that is used in those articles that you're watching, you're able to see them. We're going to talk a little bit more about this later on in our session today. I'm hearing some noise, just checking that everything's okay. Can I get some verbal confirmation?
Yes, everything is okay. Can move.
Thank you so much. Okay. So I'll talk about some more uses of Wikidata in other Wikimedia projects. A lot of us talk about work lists, and work lists are really important because this can be a starting point for many editors coming into the community. So there are groups such as Women in Red who, through Wikidata, run a query to come up with areas of work that they need to tackle. Other projects also use them as well. And one tool that is used to generate this list is called Listeria. We'll also have a session during Wikidata, during our event, that is going to dig into Wikidata related lists. Of course, the information from Wikidata can also be used to start articles. So there are some items on Wikidata that are very, very detailed, and it actually has enough information to give you a small article. So if you wanted to, say, start a Wikipedia article, but you're not really sure, okay, where am I going to get all this information from? Actually going to items on Wikidata is a very good place to begin. And finally, you can also use information from Wikidata to see other gaps in content. So the way that the Women in Red are doing it by generating a list, other people are also doing this visually through tools like WikiShootMe. So I'll talk a bit about what our ambition for this team is, right? So the reason that a dedicated team for Wikidata integration was created was because over the years, we've noticed generally in the Wikimedia movement that the content is growing, but the community is not growing at the same pace to keep up with this. There are also gaps in the type of content that is growing and the type that is just isn't there. We all know that there are very few contributors that are women, and we also know that information on women doesn't match information on men, for example. And this is just one area. Wikidata is a platform that is poised to actually make a difference in this. We've done many research in many types of research endeavors into this, but actually having a team dedicated to this is super important. So one thing that I think is important for us to share is how the goals from the organization also matches this need, to improve the content, to make the community stronger, and to also increase the diversity of knowledge across all the projects, because you can link Wikidata to all the projects. So in our team specifically, we're concerned about contributors who are editing on Wikidata and editing in other projects, right? Because we want people who are using Wikidata's data in other projects. And something that we're using to measure how well we're doing or not doing is looking at the number of editors who are editing on both Wikidata and another project or multiple other projects. So this is like our general health metric. But of course, there's like so many community concerns, and we are constantly getting messages about things that we could do better or that the community believes that we should tackle right now. And it's okay to overwhelm us when we want to know what we can do better. So one thing that is the key trend here in a lot of the things that we've heard, and I'm sharing this because I would like I would like to know if there's something missing here. Please share it in the comments. If you're thinking about this in a different way, or there's something that you think we should also include, please please feel free to reach out to us and tell us. We can also talk about it in the slot that we have for discussion. We've come up on this time and time again. People want to get better lists. We have a session on this. Our team is very curious about this, but we would love to know more. What are your problems when it comes to using Wikidata to generate lists? We know that there is a problem when it comes to the entity count limit. And when I say this, I'm referring to the ability to use multiple entities from Wikidata in your other project. So there is a hard limit now. And that means that people who are on the extreme end of using a lot of Wikidata entities in their project are challenged by this. We also know that it's very hard to query Wikidata. Like if you don't know Sparkle, if you're struggling with the query builder, it's not very accessible. We know that people have this general belief of, oh no, I don't want to use Wikidata in my project because we don't know what the vandalism protection is like. We're working on this, but we would also love to hear more experiences about this. We know that people are asking for more support for citations, for maps. One of the big things that I mentioned earlier, which was site links, it's sort of like something fun and easy that new editors who are editing both Wikidata and other projects do. But this is also not exactly the easiest thing to do. So this is an area that we've identified, but we would love to hear specific experiences about how people think that we could improve this. And then, of course, we want to do better usage tracking. You can check out Andrew's paper, which is on Commons, that talks about the ways that we could improve this. But we're also curious about, anything that we've missed. So I'm putting this out here because I would love to get some feedback from you guys. So when we did our research, our foundational research to figure out like, okay, what is the scope of this team? What are the big problems, like the ones that I just mentioned in the previous slide? We started thinking about what are the big things we're finding, right? We're finding that people want better support for editing. And one way that we can do that is to make integration simpler, to make it smarter, but also to make it more transparent. And what I mean by more transparent is that when you go to Wikidata, you're on Wikidata. When you go to Wikipedia, you're there. But when you take data from Wikipedia from Wikidata, sorry, and you put it in another project, sometimes it's not very clear where it is, right? So if you were an editor or a contributor who started working on, say, a Wikipedia article, and there are some statements in there, maybe there's some templates, there's some Lua modules, or there's some information that you see via Wikitext. It's not always clear. It might not have that little pencil that I mentioned that tells you. There might just be information there. You want to do something about it, but you're not sure. And just having clear indicators to improve transparency will actually let people know what they have to do, and this will help them feel more confident and maybe use it more. Another thing that we want to do, because we know that it can be quite a steep learning curve, is to just improve the ability to guide people when they're trying to work on the articles or other content. And then finally, to tackle this challenge that we have, that there are different policies around using Wikidata in different projects because people simply just are not sure how Wikidata works, how does the vandalism protection work, and how does the community protect the data that is on it. We want to make sure that the data is continually being worked on, it's maintained, it's protected, and we can do this when we make things much more transparent and when we have community gatherings like this, when people can come together, make sure that we're on the same page. A team like us working on this can get input from the community and vice versa. So before I hand over to Neslihan, I'm going to give a little introduction to the area of work that the team is focusing on at the moment. I'll share this quote that I find very interesting. It stayed with me. It came from a user interview that we had recently. And this editor said, "I've seen vandalism stay in articles longer just because people don't realize that the data is coming from Wikidata." This is absolutely something that we do not want. I don't think any community member who loves Wikidata, cares about the other Wikimedia projects, wants this. This is something that we want to tackle. And this is very in line with the area of work that we're focusing on at the moment, which is that we want editors to see the changes that are coming from Wikidata's data in their recent changes page or in their watch lists. So our strategy at the moment is transparency first. We want to improve areas where we can give clear indicators that information is coming from Wikidata. And once we allow people to see that, hey, this information is coming from Wikidata, our hypothesis is that this is going to empower them more and encourage them and help them feel more confident to be able to engage with Wikidata's data. So I'm going to hand it over to Neslihan to share a little bit more about what we're doing, and then we'll open it up for questions after that.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Neslihan. I'm an engineer from... Oh, is someone saying something?
No, sorry, that was a mistake.
Okay. Yeah. I'm an engineer in Wikidata integrations team. So I will be sharing what we are doing. So I will more like be demonstrating it. So if you focus on what Ifatu says about transparency and clarity, what we are doing in this improvement is more about making recent changes more clear, recent changes coming from Wikidata more clear on Wikipedia recent changes. So if I jump to this link, do you still see my screen? I assume yes. It should be like that. So we will be seeing some logs coming from Wikidata. This DM indicates that they are Wikidata edits, but they reflect they changed something on Wikipedia articles. So currently I'm looking at English Wikipedia recent changes. So there is this part of this line, summary part of the changelog. So it says changed claim, property ID, and some values. And this is not a very really clear thing if you didn't memorize all of the QIDs and PIDs. I know some people already know many of them from memory, but this is an unrealistic standard. We cannot expect everyone knows them. So instead, if I also jump one of them, they have labels in many languages, and this is much more readable and understandable. So what we do in our improvement, which will be live in all Wikipedias maybe in 1 month, yeah, so very soon it will be live. So what we do here is we resolve the labels of these properties so that we create much more readable summary. These two before and after screenshots are from the same logs, so you can compare, especially the parts that I marked with pink. So you will see, for example, let's talk about the last one. It says removed claim, property P18, and some JPEG file. And more readable version, improved version, will be removed claim, image, so that we will know that this JPEG file is the image property and of the item that they are editing. And we are seeing this item in this Rustam Pasha Mosque article. So this make it more understandable and clear, so people won't feel like, where is this edit coming from? So, but to be able to see these changes, there is two things that to be careful about. You can enable them from preferences. So in the preferences, there is a little checkbox says that show Wikidata edits by default in recent changes. If you are interested, you can enable it. And in your recent changes, you should make sure that this Wikidata edits filter is on, so that you will be seeing this DM Wikidata minor logs in your recent changes. So yeah, that's all about the change that we are working on currently. You want to come back?
Yeah.
Should we say properly bye together?
Well, we have a lot of time for comments and questions. So I will stop screen sharing so that we can see people.
Yeah.
And yeah, we would love to open it up for questions. Maybe there were already some while we were speaking. If there were, please flag them again.
There weren't any, but there is one in the chat about if all Wikidata edits in watch lists are listed as minor too. But yeah, that's from Danny. So.
Yeah, Danny, I couldn't trigger any other logs, by the way, but maybe there is a way. So if maybe I should play on Wikidata more to answer your question. What is the other question says?
Okay, so can I go ahead and speak about the comment from Saya, which says, good watchlist support is an important aspect for seamless integration. So I'm really happy that we'll finally have good labels. Do you have other plans for watchlist improvements? Mostly, I want to ask about the issue when you call more than 20 or so properties, it shows all items changed in the watch list. Saya, do you want to unmute and quickly speak about this issue that you're facing, just so that we can understand it and be able to note it properly?
Hi. Yeah. Like usually when you call some properties from connected item, it shows only changes with this properties. watch list. But when you call many properties, and usually it happens when you call like external ID properties, because there are like dozens of them, and you need to check if there are some. Then it starts showing all changes with the connected from the connected item. Like maybe you don't use data from, I don't know, place of birth, but if you already called like 20 external IDs, it starts showing this data in the watch list.
So are you speaking of a situation about how the information, it's giving you information that you don't necessarily want?
Yeah, it shows more edits that like it shows edits for properties that you don't use in your articles.
Okay, Lydia, do you want to say something?
Yeah, to give a bit more background why this is happening. So if an article or data from an item in an article is used a ton, then we, for performance reason, collapse that and say, okay, this whole item is used. And that's why you're getting more watches spam than necessary. And Lucas also points to some code.
Okay.
No, that's for the minor edits. Okay, yeah. So what's happening is for performance reasons, and you can probably look into if there's something to tweak, but it can't go away completely, I think.
Can we maybe at least split it like into external IDs and everything else?
Yeah, I mean, that's very interesting. One of the things that we're asking in the user testing that we just did regarding watch lists was we were asking people if there were any interesting filters that they could possibly have. So maybe they could specify things that, and by the way, I am not promising anything, we're just asking people things that maybe they want to see a bit more or they want to see a bit less. Of course, whatever we learn, we're going to pass it on because we can control what is coming from Wikidata, but we cannot make big changes in the recent changes or the watch list page by ourselves. But this is very good to know. So thank you for sharing that. And I see that Mike Peel also said something about an easy solution to this is to just include all Wikidata values in the articles. Then it's showing all the relevant values. Okay, good one.
There's a question that came in the note, like Etherpad notes, in case there are more follow-ups for this specific question.
Sure.
I'll take that as a no. So the question was, how can I most easily see which Wikidata properties are used in a certain Wikipedia info box?
From where we are trying to see it?
The question is not in the chat, it's in the Etherpad, so the place where the notes
Yeah.
are. Okay.
Maybe we'll jump there and we will see it, but maybe if I write Etherpad, it will know. Yeah.
No, that's the wrong one.
Wrong one?
Yeah.
I just sent the question in the group, in the chat, so I copied it and posted it.
Thank you.
Thanks. So if the person who's created the info box is generally using a Wikidata powered info box, then it looks different. But usually there are times where people can also use templates and modules in the info box. So this is also one of the problems that we are talking about, which is that it's not fully transparent. It's one of those things where the more familiar you become with using Wikidata and the ways that it's used, then you know. But for people who don't know, you don't really know. But another thing you can do is that you can also go to the page itself. And in any page, you can get information about that article and you can see the Wikidata properties that are used in that article if you scroll all the way down. So that is a very good way to know. You can see the different templates and the modules. There's a list of them. And if you want to learn more, you can click on each one and you can see them. But of course, that is like so long, right? It would be much more nicer to have easier ways like visual cues for this. So this is something that we're interested in improving. So Andrew says, is the watch list issue mentioned in the previous question related to consolidation in the Wikibase entity table under the hood? Andrew, do you want to talk about this hood because you know it quite well? You've been there.
Hey, sorry. Yeah, it's I was remembering that table, which is used by Wikidata, Wikibase, to track what entities are used on other Wikipedias and other projects. When it gets to a certain number of entities used, it consolidates them into a single row. And so that sounds like similar to the issue with the watch list. So I don't know if they're related internally. And then I guess the next question to think about could be, would a solution to the watch list issue also be related to whatever solution could be implemented for better data collection, for metrics and visualizations and stuff like that? Yeah, sorry if it's too technical for me.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thanks, Andrew. Lydia, you said yes. I'm guessing you're referring to Andrew's question, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yes. Okay. Elwin says, which one is more practical for the future of a Wikipedia project? Elwin, do you want to give us a little bit more context, please?
Yeah, I was talking about you. So you were mentioning the templates and the info boxes. So there are different ways to implement them into a wiki page. So what is the most convenient so far for the future? Because if it's an incubator wiki project, then which one should be adopted or preferred?
Great question. Thank you so much. We would love to recommend that you use Wikidata powered info boxes. That's the one. It's great because you can get a lot of support for this. There are a lot of materials, documentation on how to do it. And if you're having problems with it, you can actually reach out to us directly. So that's what we recommend. Thank you. Sega says, also the same info as Lydia mentioned is visible under the wiki code field in the preview mode. So again, we're referring to how do you know what Wikidata's data was used in an info box. Sege is just explaining another way that you can see this. Am I right, Sege?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Do we have another question, comment?
Suggestion, maybe?
Okay, maybe I can take us back to one of the slides where we spoke about the urgent concerns that have come up from the community. So I'll share my screen again. And I would love to know if we are right about what we believe are the urgent concerns. If we've missed something, yeah, if you guys also, if this is the same page that you're on. Also, just a reminder that we can't see anyone. So if you want to say something, please feel free to unmute yourself or raise a hand and then go for it. Okay, so we know all the concerns. There are no surprise concerns. Okay, cool.
Maybe if there
There was
is.
something in the chat. Oh, sorry.
Oh, there's
Oh.
something in the chat. Nice, exciting. Okay, I will stop sharing so that we can take a look.
Yes, there's a question. Mike, do you want to ask the question, or I can also read it out loud? So one of the difficulties with using Wikidata on ENWiki is that editors there don't want to leave ENWiki to make changes on Wikidata. Is there plans for the Wikidata bridge work to tackle that?
Thanks, Mike. Great question. And yes, I can imagine that this issue would extend to other Wikipedias, not only ENWiki. I think that, of course, for people who use platforms, you don't necessarily want to go somewhere else to do something that affects another place that you are on. So this is just a big barrier in general. And Wikidata Bridge comes under something that our team will take care of, right? For those who don't know, Wikidata Bridge is the ability to edit data from Wikidata without going to Wikidata to do it. So if Wikidata's data was available in, say, your info box, and you wanted to make changes there, you wouldn't need to leave to go to Wikidata to do it. You would just edit it there. So yes, this is something that our team would work on, but of course we want to first tackle some transparency issues, and then we come up to strengthening Wikidata's data use in the project. So it would be something that comes next after working on the transparency stuff. Short answer, yes. It's something that we would work on in our team. Thank you. Okay. Any other questions, comments, suggestions, feedback? There was another question. Okay. You talked about citations. Are there any plans on how to improve the use of Wikidata for them? We don't have any current plans, but it has come up, especially from people who are part of the WikiCite project. So it's an issue that we heard a lot about, but we haven't studied this in depth. We haven't done any specific research into it. But if you have something to share, maybe an idea, a particular problem that you're having, you're also very welcome to unmute so that we can note this. In response to Super Chillam's question, Mike shares that SiteQ is mostly working well, although we get quite a few feature requests that we don't have time to implement right now. And then there's a link to check out the SiteQ template. So you can also look at that. Just curious, I will look at the link. Nice. Okay. Any other questions, comments? Okay. Okay, clap. Thanks, Danny. All right then. So, yeah, I guess most of you have the information on our team right now. Please feel free to contact us, to reach out to us, to join the office hours that Danny shared the link for in the chat. And we might be reaching out to some of you to ask for some user interviews or to participate in our user testing or to be our pilot wikis for what we're working on. So please say yes. Oh, there's a late comment from here.
Yes.
It says, for my Wiktionary integration with lexicographical data, I had to write my own module to format the content of statement references. Mahir, would you love to share a bit more on this? There's also a link to this.
Are we sharing our screen or can I jump?
No, please don't.
Oh, this is the thing that you, yeah. That is super cool.
Yeah, it's very cool.
It would be nice if there was something provided by the devs rather than having to hack it up myself.
Okay.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah. Thanks, Mahir. Maybe it could be part of our project Wikidata integration.
Oh, yeah.
Mahir, do you have more things that you'd love to work on this that you haven't gotten around to? If you're able to unmute or reply in the chat. Are you happy with how you formatted it, or are there no, but we'll see how the following days goes. Okay, please yeah, let us know, and yeah, maybe we could speak about it as well. And then someone says, for the usage of Wikidata, it would be helpful if modules could be hosted on Wikidata and Commons and be used on any wiki. GPS Leo. Thank you for this. And then Mike Peel says, this link does a lot of formatting work from Wikidata. Not sure if it has the right features for what you were doing here, though. It's also unmaintained now, as Rex S left the project. Sad, sad face. Very sad. Oh no, shock reaction. Okay. Oh, good Lord.
Isn't it?
Yeah. It is.
If someone didn't get chance to speak right now or write something, you can always further communicate with us with the suggestions and any kind of problems that you are aware, and maybe you have a dream about it that could be nice to hear later also.
Yeah.
To say, you can also leave any questions in the Etherpad notes in case you didn't get to them. You could always get back to them also. And yeah.
Okay. What was that? Okay. All right. So we're gonna stop our session now to give time for a little bit of break between this one and the next one. But thank you so much for all the questions and comments. Thank you for being here. Okay.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much, Neslihan and Ifatu, for that session. You're still sharing your screen, I think, at the moment, just so you know. That was a really, really interesting insight into what our team is up to, what it's been up to, and what our plans for the future are. So we have around 10 minutes before the next session, and we'll be joined by David and Sunita of the Wikimedia Foundation, who will be introducing us to Wikifunctions and how it is helping to power language functions, but also beyond. So I suggest we take this moment to have a short break, stretch legs, and yeah, I'll see you in a few minutes.
Hi, Danny. This is Dave.
You can see his title there being shared right now. So I'm going to hand it over to David Martin and Luca. Will you be giving us a short introduction to Wikifunctions first, or
Well, actually, I have a full-fledged slide presentation for the entire 25 minutes, and it'll start with an overview of abstract Wikipedia, and then we'll spend most of the time talking about Wikifunctions.
great? Looking forward to it because I think it's one of those new and exciting projects that maybe many people don't know about. So whenever you're ready, I'll hand it over to you.
All right, great. Thank you, Danny. I'm not going to be able to monitor chat very well, so if there are any kind of audio or visual glitches come up, please feel free to speak up uh, uh, with your voice. Anyway, I'll go ahead and get started. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, as appropriate for your case. Um, as I just mentioned, I'm going to start by talking about the motivation and the directions of the Abstract Wikipedia project. Then I'm going to spend most of my time giving an overview of Wikifunctions and then talking about how Wikidata today can be used in Wikifunctions. So Wikipedia today, as most folks here undoubtedly are aware, is available in over 300 language editions and provides more than 60 million articles across the languages, about more than 28 million topics. However, it is wrong to assume that there is one unified Wikipedia. The 300 language editions are mostly independent of each other. If you write an article in one language or if you change an article, there isn't much that automatically propagates the changes to other languages. This is why the knowledge in Wikipedia is unevenly distributed between languages. English has more than 10% of all articles, almost 7 million, or actually just over 7 million articles recently. Turkmen, on the other hand, the official language of Turkmenistan, spoken by more than 4 million folks, has fewer than 7,000 articles. So a factor between these two cases of about 1,000. In this situation, beautiful articles such as this one about Gladstone, the resident mouser of His Majesty's Treasury, are only available in 5 or 6 languages in many cases. This article about the monarchs of the traditional kingdom of Dagbon in the country of Ghana only appears currently in 3 different Wikipedias, including the one in the Dagbani language shown here. Even Waterford, which is the 5th most populous city in Ireland, is only present in about 1/4 of Wikipedias. So this uneven distribution inspires us to think about how we might do better. What would be the cost of fleshing out all 300 plus languages with all of the available articles separately authored on all the available topics? Well, if you simply multiply out 20 million topics by 300 languages, you come up with 6 billion article authoring activities. It would be great, of course, if time and volunteers and resources made it possible to cover all topics in all languages by separately authored articles, but this doesn't appear to be realistic, at least not in a useful time frame. However, what if a single contribution could make knowledge available in many languages? And in particular, what if it were possible to compose an article once in a language independent or abstract representation, and then use natural language generation techniques to generate that content into articles in many different languages? In this way, in principle, the rough cost calculation could be reduced from 6 billion all the way down to 20 million, reduction of more than 2 orders of magnitude. And this is the basic idea of abstract Wikipedia. It's worth noting that Wikidata already takes many valuable steps in this direction. Just to give one example, Wikidata already, from a language neutral content, is able to provide info boxes generated into the Wikipedias of many different languages. Abstract Wikipedia aims to go a bit further by capturing the narrative structure of encyclopedic content and generating full text eventually. Furthermore, abstract Wikipedia will depend crucially on Wikidata content, as we shall see. Abstract Wikipedia will depend on both world knowledge, such as items, properties, and statements, and lexicographic or dictionary knowledge in the form of lexemes and lexeme forms and lexeme senses, all coming from Wikidata. Most of the work to date of our Abstract Wikipedia team has been focused on building this central component, not only to support natural language techniques, but also to capture a broad range of procedural knowledge. And this central component, in fact, is Wikifunctions. So let's turn our attention to Wikifunctions. Wikifunctions is Wikimedia's first new project since 2012 when Wikidata started. Our initial launch was in August of 2023. For Abstract Wikipedia, as I just mentioned, Wikifunctions is capturing procedural knowledge of how to generate content in various natural languages. But there will be many other possible ways of using Wikifunctions. Just to mention one in passing very briefly, we've just started rolling out the capability of specifying embedded function calls on wiki pages. It's rolling out gradually to selected Wikipedias and Wiktionaries over time. So as you can see here, we're providing the capability to embed function calls in wiki text on various wikis, and then the function calls will return their values to allow for a presentation like this one, where you get the current day of week returned from Wikifunctions, and you also get the number of days returned from Wikifunctions, number of days remaining until Wikimania 2025. So let's talk more about Wikifunctions. Now let's look at an example function. This one checks whether a given year was a leap year. This is a function page for the function. As you can see, it tells you the types of the inputs and the output. In this case, the input is an instance of Gregorian year, which is a type that exists on Wikifunctions, and the output is a Boolean. So here we can also run arbitrary instances of the arbitrary inputs to the function right here in the function page. And in this case, for the year 1900 AD, we get back the correct result that in fact 1900 was not a leap year. Every function has tests associated with it. In this case, we have 10 tests for the leap year function. We can also see 4 implementations on the tops of the columns. In this case, with all the green check marks, we can happily see that all the implementations are passing all of the tests, and also all the tests are connected here, which means the test will get run whenever the function gets changed. Now, here's the 4 implementations for our leap year function. You can write implementations in a couple of different programming languages at present, JavaScript and Python, but you can also write composition implementations, which are built by arranging calls to other pre-existing functions. So oh, sorry, let's see. I'm just checking. If that's all I needed to say there. Uh, Here's a simple example of a composition implementation, which relies on a clever algorithm. If a year ends with the same day of the week as the second day of that year, then it was a leap year. So this composition is a top-level function call to a function called same day of the week. That function takes 2 inputs, and other functions are used. Other functions are called to provide those inputs. In this case, this function provides what day of the week did the year end on, And then we also use functions to find out what day of the week did the year start on and what was the following day of the week. So if those are the same day of the week, then this leap year function will return a true value. I was going to mention the implementations of a function can use different algorithms. Wikifunctions normally selects the best performing implementation when a function is run in the user interface. Um, since Wikifunctions is multilingual, just like Wikidata, that means that each function carries labels from all the different natural languages that are supported. So you can easily see this composition not only in English, but also in many other languages, such as German, shown here. As of now, Wikifunctions has collected more than 2,500 functions, over 4,300 implementations, over 7,600 tests, with names and descriptions in more than 100 natural languages and contributors from more than 50 countries. Of course, functions can provide basic math, such as this one, which takes in two natural number instances, adds them, and returns the resulting natural number. Or units conversion, such as this one, converting Celsius to Fahrenheit. Here's a function that counts how often a letter or an arbitrary substring appears in a word. Uh, in this case, of course, the word strawberry contains the letter R 3 times, as the function tells us. We have quite a few functions for string manipulations. And here's a highly specialized function from the chemistry domain. We have a catalog page created by community members, which shows many of the categories of functions that have been created. In our remaining time, we'll mostly be looking at Wikidata operations, functions, and natural language functions. So now we can start looking in more detail at how Wikidata can be used today in Wikifunctions. We'll start by showing how Wikifunctions can access content from Wikidata. Um, Wikifunctions has its own type system, and the basis for working with Wikidata is provided by the 6 types shown here: item, property, statement, and so forth. These Wikifunctions types mirror exactly the corresponding types on Wikidata. For each of these types, except for statement, we have fetch functions, which allows you to pull content over from Wikidata. We have support functions such as equality and instance validation. We also have reference types, which make it possible to point to Wikidata entities without actually downloading them, and UI support for working nicely with Wikidata content. For example, our wiki functions type called Wikidata Lexeme has all of these 7 properties directly reflecting what you will see in a particular lexeme on Wikidata. Now let's look at the fetch function. The fetch function calls a Wikidata API to retrieve the content for a given lexeme in this case, and then transforms it into an instance of our lexeme type on Wikifunctions. So as you can see, this function takes Wikidata lexeme reference as an input, and each instance of Wikidata lexeme reference is just a tiny object that contains a Wikidata identifier, such as L1234. And that enables this function to reach out to Wikidata and pull back the entire content and return an instance of Wikidata lexeme. So in the user interface, suppose I want to fetch the lexeme for the English word umbrella. Our user interface provides a lexeme selector, which contacts the Wikidata search API and shows you matching lexemes that you might be interested in. After typing in the first 3 letters here, as you can see, the lexeme I'm interested in shows up here, umbrella. And then I can select that lexeme and I can hit the run function button. And then the entire content of the lexeme comes back. These are just snapshots of partial results of scrollable content, which will show you the entire content of the umbrella lexeme, including its lemma, its lexical category, and its claims, nested senses, and forms. So yeah, let's move on. There's also some search functions that we provide that allows the user to use other search capabilities provided by Wikidata. In this case, the capability to find lexemes that are associated to other Wikidata entities, which can be very valuable for natural language generation. So in this case, this function, find lexemes for a Wikidata item, it takes a Wikidata item reference and a Wikidata property reference, and it's going to find lexemes that are related to the given item by the given property, and in particular, lexemes in the given natural language. So suppose I want to generate a phrase that mentions a house cat. In this case, I've selected house cat as a reference to a particular Wikidata item using our item selector. And then I've also told the user interface I'm interested in this particular Wikidata property item for this sense. I'm also interested in Spanish language lexemes. And so after running this function, I'll get back a particular lexeme, gato, which of course allows me to talk about house cats in Spanish. Once I have the lexeme reference, of course, I can use other functions to fetch the lexeme from Wikidata and extract all kinds of content from inside the lexeme. And here's an example of doing a bit of that. This function, first matching representation string from lexeme, it takes a Wikidata lexeme as an input and a list of grammatical features, which themselves are references to Wikidata items. Then it chooses the form that inside the lexeme that matches these grammatical features, and then it returns the representation string from that form. So here we're giving it the lexeme for gato, which we've previously fetched from Wikidata, and we're asking for the representation for the plural form of that word, and the function tells us, pulls it out from the lexeme and tells us that the string we're interested in is gatos. Here's another example that similarly extracts from a given lexeme the present tense, simple tense, and past participle of an English verb. So for the lexeme begin, it pulls out begin, began, begun. This function is dealing with items that may have been fetched from Wikidata. So this function looks inside an item to see what values it has for a given property. So in this case, we tell it the item of North Epping, which is a city, and we tell it we're interested in the property instance of, and the function looks inside the item and tells us that it's an instance. This item is an instance both of human settlement and also hamlet. In the user interface, of course, these Wikidata icons tell you that this is content that's been retrieved from Wikidata. Also provides the link here that takes you directly to the Wikidata page for whatever the content might be. Now, these utility functions that we've been looking at, in turn, can support the creation of natural language generation functions. And our catalog, the online catalog, includes a breakdown of these by language. We've had contributions to date in all of these different languages. Here's some of the natural language functions in the German language. Lots of morphological or word form functions to date in many of the languages. Here's some similar, mostly morphological functions created and tested by Igbo speakers, which is a language spoken by more than 30 million people in Western Africa. This is one of those. It takes the infinitive form of a verb, an Igbo verb, and it returns the imperative form many examples of these types of functions. Now, here's a function that goes a little further in generating a full sentence. This is a function that generates kind of the templated first sentence of a English Wikipedia article for a given year. So in this case, for the year 2023 AD, it generates this sentence, which is already the type of sentence that's currently used on English Wikipedia. And it calls on other Wikifunctions, of course, to do some of the calculations and to formulate this Roman numeral and so forth. And finally, we can show an example of a very general natural language building block, which will be useful for generating many different types of content and which builds on several of the Wikidata functions that I've been mentioning. This function, indefinite noun phrase, takes two Wikidata item references and a language, and it returns a natural indefinite noun phrase for talking about that content. So um, again, the inputs are Wikidata item references. So we're telling it now, I want to talk about the concept of a house cat and the concept of blackness and to generate a phrase for that in the English language. So this function, again, like I mentioned earlier, it uses one of our building blocks to find out which lexemes are useful for these concepts. Then it retrieves those lexemes and it does some matching of grammatical features as needed, and it uses that information to generate the phrase a black cat. Um, Actually, that function is quite busy with doing a number of steps as shown here, calling on other functions. I won't have time to go into detail here, but it's a composition function that calls on various lower level capabilities. Now, we can do the same thing here by specifying in a different language, so specifying the Spanish language. In this case, of course, the function will ask call on Wikidata to tell it which Spanish language lexemes can be used, and we'll come up with the phrase un gato negro. Similarly, if, sorry, I thought I had. Oh, I also had French. Can do the same thing for the French phrase un chat noir. And also wanted to point out that, as I've mentioned, Wikifunctions takes pains to make the interface accessible to speakers of all different languages. So a French user can see everything in the user interface in the French language, including the labels that come over from Wikidata and all the descriptions of the content and so forth. So a French user could easily use the same page to generate the same English phrase for a black cat. And wrapping it up, I just mentioned that we have much work ahead. Or in the coming months, our primary focus will be on building out infrastructure for abstract content and building out the embedded function calls capabilities that I just mentioned, and many more improvements to Wikifunctions infrastructure and capabilities. And in terms of Wikidata content, we're currently quite busy filling in a few of the representational gaps, which should be completed in a fairly near term. And in summary, I just want to emphasize that Wikidata content of all types is now available in Wikifunctions for use in all sorts of computations. The library of NL functions is growing. The results of computations with the rollout of embedded function calls, results of computations can be inserted into arbitrary wiki pages. And we'll be focusing heavily on building out abstract content representations in the coming months. And that's it. Thank you all for listening. Now, as I said, I haven't been able to watch the chat very much.
Those of you with questions, yeah, please feel free to unmute and ask away.
We did have a question in the chat. Maybe that could be good to confirm from you, David. Sergey has written, if text generation is based on lexemes, does that mean that for item description generation, we need to link lexemes to items first?
Yeah, great question. In many cases, text generation doesn't have to start with an item as in some of the examples that I showed. But if it does start with an item, then yes, the links in Wikidata between items and lexemes are going to be crucial. And we're certainly interested to promote and support the Wikidata community, and building out the lexicographic content as quickly as possible.
From one of your previous slides, Jan Ainale asked, how do you count the countries of the contributors?
Well, I don't have all the details fresh in my mind, but we do have we have an instrument in our user interface which in a sanitized way that doesn't violate privacy can detect which country a given user is working from. That's a capability that's across Wikimedia projects. And I think we simply count whether in any sort of creation or edit activity that takes place on wikifunctions.org would count as an activity from the country of the user that's doing that.
Thank you. Lydia mentions that you can use the Lexica tool in ToolForge to help connecting senses to items. And that's a nice thing to do when you have some time to kill on the train.
Great. Yes. Thank you. I've been hearing about that tool, and yes, everyone is certainly encouraged to check it out. Is there a link for that tool? Or there must be easy to find. Oh, it's right here.
Yeah, and I'll make sure it goes into the Etherpad as well. Andrew, would you like to unmute yourself and pose a question?
Sure. Yeah. Thank you so much. Well, I think Ifatu was first.
You can go ahead also, but I can ask. Yeah, I'm Neslihan. We are sharing the same screen with Ifatu, but okay, I will go ahead and ask then. So I think this was super cool, and I'm a programmer. That's why it was also very interesting for me to imagine the things that it can be done with these Wikifunctions. But I'm curious to hear if you know any applied project by using Wikifunctions, like community projects or art projects. Do you know anything like that?
It's still relatively early days. We do have an active, smallish community that's been very busy in building quite a few functions as I showed. But in terms of like complete projects elsewhere or outside of wikifunctions.org that are based on it, I'm not aware of any at present.
Thank you. Then, yeah, we'll have to figure something out as a.
Yes.
Yeah.
Certainly interested in supporting that type of activity.
Thank you for
of
your
course,
answer.
Sorry, that's all. Go ahead. Yeah.
I think then, Andrew, you wanted to ask a question too, no?
Okay, yeah, sorry, I hope there's time. So first of all, thank you so much for this brilliant visionary work. It's really important, and I can just, it's obvious how much effort and how much passion has been put into this. So huge congratulations, and thank you for all of that. It's hugely appreciated. I have two questions. Thanks. Yeah, I have two questions that are, I don't know if there's time for too much, and the two questions are a bit terrible. So a huge apology for this, like a huge apology if they're difficult to explain or controversial. I guess I'll go with the more technical one first. And again, really sorry. So I see that wiki text is never planned for as a possible output of Wikifunctions. I just put in the chat the link to the discuss or to the statement on that. I could just, I guess, read it really quickly. The answer, what's said by the team, I think. It says, as a part of Wikifunctions calls only being able to be used in a modern page system, this means that you will not be able to output wiki text fragments, only plain text and later valid balanced HTML. So my question is, it sounds like there's a desire there. Maybe I'm reading too much between the lines. Again, sorry if that's the case. Maybe is there somehow a desire to deprioritize wiki text in the future or in somehow relation to this project? And hopefully you have some background to share about your thinking or maybe the team's thinking on this. And thanks so much. And also, again, apologies if it's a difficult or controversial question.
It's a fascinating question, but I'm actually going to take the privilege of punting because I haven't been heavily involved in the discussions around that particular decision. I think your interpretation sounds plausible, but I cannot actually provide any further depth about that particular decision. Sorry.
Or anyone else here from the team that knows more about it?
Whoops. Hi, Andrew. I'm also from the team. So as far as I know, this is a matter of technical constraints. It's not, I don't think it's an intention to deprioritize. It's just, this is something that cannot be done with the way that the architecture is planned.
Thanks,
Okay.
Henry.
Thanks so much.
So we're just a couple of minutes over the end of the planned session. If there are any more questions, and if David or Luca, you're happy to continue answering, I would be fine with keeping the floor open. But if you have your schedule or you need to step away, then this is the time we're supposed to end the session. So it's not a problem. But if you're happy to stay for a little while longer, as long as we have questions, that would be great.
I'm happy to stick around.
Wonderful. Then I think, Andrew, you mentioned that you had a second question.
Yeah, this is an even more terrible question. I'm really sorry. I'll also paste some links here. So this is following on some papers that were presented at the Wiki workshop a couple of weeks ago. I just put the one link in the chat here from a paper by co-authored by Adam White, who I think many of you know, and then another one. The first one from Adam is about translation imbalance, and really interesting. I did some research about how translation is often going mainly from English and also from other large languages to smaller languages. And then the second paper is about oral history and the lack of ability to cite oral history. And these two concerns, I think, could be related to what it means for a community to be translating versus or mainly translating, and what it could mean versus what it could mean for a community to be building their own idea of what knowledge is, what sources are valid, and it just seems like it's a potentially very different kind of dynamic. If you have one community, their main goal is to, which is understandable in many cases and important, just to bring knowledge in from another existing wiki source and to translate it, maybe not verbatim but close to verbatim, versus what you could have where a community is saying, okay, well, in our culture we have these different sources of information, we have these different ways of thinking. What is knowledge for us, and how do we want to disseminate it in a more local perspective? Like the skills you would generate in different communities would be very different for those two tasks, even though the output would potentially be similar in that you would have, Wikipedias in each language. But the community dynamics, the skills, and then the future perspectives for those communities would be different. And so this relates, I think, to Wikifunctions and also abstract Wikipedia and also Wikidata, in that in this case also we have a centralized repository of knowledge where everyone from basically all cultures has to agree on what is a valid source to cite, what information should be prioritized, how it should be framed. And so I'm wondering if there's concern about this being too much of a uniformization, a uniforming force that brings too much homogeneity, doesn't allow for local differences, and doesn't doesn't support the development of communities that have a rich skill set in developing ways to present and describe knowledge, and then also, the danger of the more dominant languages and cultures, not taking over, but being too dominant in disseminating their own view of knowledge and reliability, and and how to frame that knowledge. I hope I'm not. I hope it's clear. I'm sorry to ramble a bit.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that was very clear. Thank you. Yeah, that's a very important question. That there's been lots of discussion about that within our team and other folks outside of our team. And I'm glad you brought that up, because it's a little too easy for someone to get the impression that abstract Wikipedia aims to like supplant, to replace all of the, by automatic generation, to replace everything in all the Wikipedias, but that is totally not what abstract Wikipedia aims to do. We want to provide an additional source of generating article content, but not to replace any hand-authored content by language communities. We totally don't want to do anything to diminish any language communities or their homegrown efforts, but rather just to give them an additional tool to flesh out their language, their encyclopedia. So in other words, if they recognize there might be many topics uh, from other countries, or topics that they don't have time and local interest to write about, that they should be able to take advantage of abstract Wikipedia to fill in those topics for their readers. Again, with the recognition that they wouldn't expect to have time to hand author those topics in their language. And so again, we think of abstract Wikipedia as a collection of tools that just helps each community, according to their own choices, to build out their content in their native Wikipedia.
Okay, thanks so much. Sorry.
Yeah, sure. Well, that's all from me. But you can follow up if you like.
Then maybe one last quick question from Lydia, who just asked if you have a favorite function, or maybe any particular one that stands out as being weird or curious or interesting.
That's a good question, especially since I was just reviewing some of our functions for this presentation. Certainly the chemistry domain function that I flashed on the screen, which somehow generates the specification of the atomic shells for a given number of electrons. I thought that's one of my favorites, although I don't actually understand it. Maybe I'll go back and try some inputs and see what I can learn from running the function. But I'm also very fond of the functions that I was talking about that are based on Wikidata capabilities that do a number of steps. Uh, to retrieve the first look into the item and then find the appropriate lexeme and then use that for natural language generation. I think in general those are my favorites just because they're juggling quite a few different types of knowledge, and because the Wikidata objects that we ingest are actually the largest objects in general that Wikifunctions has been working with. So it's been putting us through our paces in terms of some performance issues. But anyway, that's what comes to my mind.
Great. Thank you so much, David. I think there was certainly quite a technical session, and I must admit some of it went over my head, but it's clear how much innovation and care is going into it. It seems very exciting, if not a little mind-bending at times. Um, but definitely exciting to imagine how this can change the way we write and share knowledge across languages. I'm really, really grateful to have had a window into this work. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you, Danny. I realize I covered a lot of territory rather quickly, and I will share the slides, and the slides have fairly well written speaker notes that should be helpful for anyone who wants to review all of this content.
And
And some links. Sorry, the slides also have links to some other documentation pages. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to ask if there is like a primer or like an intro to available that people can check up and get a bit more of an overview into Wikifunctions before they dive in.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, there's a couple of those links are in the slides. I don't have it at hand right now for the chat, but you could just go to wikifunctions.org to get started. Wikifunctions.org.
Wonderful, thank you. Yeah, that's great. So we're just about quarter past. I would say we wrap up that session today. And then we just move over to playing some games. So I'm gonna steal the screen share again. And for those of you still in the audience, thank you so much for sticking with us till now. For the technical team, I'm gonna ask if you could stop the recording now, please, and end it there. And we'll